your credit score is low. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of As Told by Ray. I'm Teray, and if you're new here, welcome. If you're back again, hey y'all. So yeah, if you're new here, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button before you finish watching this video, and make sure you hit the notification bell so that you get notified when I do my weekly uploads. And I upload every week on Mondays. So when you're sitting at work bored because it's Monday and you really don't want to be there, you can watch me on Mondays. So this week's video, I am going to be talking about credit. I feel like credit is something that a lot of people, of course, misuse and really just don't understand. So I wanted to make sure I kind of put some videos out there about credit, different tips for credit out. This will kind of be like a series, so there'll be multiple videos on this. So yeah, if you want to know anything specific about credit or you have any questions, put them in the comments below. You can also DM me on my other social media, which is in the description bar if you are not following me. So this week we're going to just go over the basic tips of credit. So the first thing is, well, what is credit? Credit is basically your financial report card. It's how anybody that you're requesting to get money from looks at you and determines if they're going to give you any money or not. That's plain and simple. That's kind of the easiest way that I can describe it. So pretty much the ranges for credit go from about 380 to 850, depending on which type of score you're being rated on. Those numbers can fluctuate a little bit. I think it may go as low as 300. But yeah, generally around 380 to 850 is where you are. The closer you are to 300, your credit is terrible. But pretty much ideal credit is you're like at excellent credit once you get that 750 number to 850. You're still at really good credit if you're around that. Anything in the 700s, you're pretty much a go, and lenders are going to be willing to give you money. When you get into the 600s, sometimes it gets a little iffy. They may require more documentation for you than they would for someone who's in the 700s, but it's still overall good. If you're about that 660 mark, that is pretty much the middle ground of what separates you from the people with good credit and the people from bad credit. But if you're lower than 660, it's fine. You can always repair your credit, rebuild your credit to get closer to that 700, 750 mark. I don't know anyone with an 850 credit score. I don't even think that it matters after 750 what you get, but I'm not a bank, so don't trust me when I say that. Strive for 850 if that's what you want to do, but it's damn near impossible to keep your credit score 100% perfect 100% of the time. So yeah, my first tip about credit is, one, be smart about it. Don't just think that you can just borrow money and not pay it back. That's the quickest way to put yourself in a financial hole that it's really, really hard to get yourself out of. So ways that you can go about building your credit is you can become what's called an authorized user. An authorized user is basically when you are authorized to use another person's line of credit. So let's say your parent or your wife or your husband, whoever, has a credit card. They have a good payment history and they have a pretty good score. What being an authorized user does is they'll add you onto their card, and you'll get a card in the mail that has your name on it, but it's attached to their line of credit. They are allowed, when they make their purchases and they make their payments, you benefit from the payments that they're making. You don't even have to spend money on the card. You're just reaping the benefits of their good credit and their good payment history, and it will attach to you. As they continue to make on-time payments it will establish your good payment history, and the longer that they keep the accounts open and the longer that you're on the card, it will help lengthen your it'll help your length of credit history. So that's one way that people can go about establishing credit if you don't have any credit, and you can use this method to improve your credit if you've already kind of messed up just a little bit. Now, there are sites called piggybacking, which piggybacking is basically the same as being an authorized user, but there are sites and businesses that will offer piggybacking services. Basically, you'll become an authorized user on a stranger's card. I don't recommend that because you don't know who this person is. You don't know what their situation is. If they fall on hard times, now you're an authorized user and they stop making their on-time payments, or they overspend on their card, now that's affecting you and you don't have the right to come off. They have to request to take you off. So if you are trying to get on as an authorized user, if you don't have someone you trust, this method is not going to work for you. I highly advise against any piggybacking type of thing. Stay away from that. It is probably going to be more detrimental than good anyway. The next tip for credit is when you get credit, don't overspend. It is so nice when you apply for a credit card and they approve you and they tell you, oh, I'm going to give you a $5,000 limit. Now, that doesn't mean go out and spend $5,000. Maxing your card out will destroy your credit, and pretty much using anything over 30% of the maximum limit is going to hurt your credit. If you're under that 30% mark and making your payments on time, that's going to boost your score. Any second that you go over that 30%, you want to work extra hard to bring it back down. What it means when you're over the 30% to a lender or a creditor is that you don't really have any money to fund basically your daily activities. That you're relying on this line of credit that they've given you to do everything. And you're not able to pay it back with money that you physically have. So that's another way that people really put themselves in a hole, is they spend so much, it's over the 30%, and then they're not able to keep up with the payments or pay more towards that card to really get the balance down as low as possible, or at least under the 30%. So don't be that person. Make sure that you do the math of your card and make sure that you are not going over 30% of your card. And I do advise people to go ahead and get a credit card. It's easier when you don't have credit to get a credit card. It's all about being smart about it. Credit cards are not the devil. Actually, people think that cash rules the world. No, credit makes everything run. Credit is the most important thing. Let's just leave it at that. So it's not bad to actually get a credit card. It's more so about being responsible when you get it. Now, some people will not be able to just apply for a credit card, let's say through their bank or American Express or Discover, and just get approved for credit. So there are different things that you can do. You can get what's called a secured card. And a secured card is you have to put your own money in, and that kind of establishes your line of credit. Your line of credit is exactly your line of credit is exactly the money that you put into the card. So if you put in $500, your $500 is essentially your credit limit. And it helps you when you start making purchases. It acts just as a credit card, and it establishes that credit history, and it also establishes the payment history. So there are a couple of different types of credit accounts. So you have what's called a revolving credit account, and that's for like your credit cards. Your credit cards, whatever you spend and then what you pay, it just keeps going around in a circle. So if your credit card company says, we're going to give you $1,000, you spend $500, then you only have, of course, $500 left. But once you pay that $500 back, now you're back at $1,000. So it's a continuous revolving cycle. It really never ends until you decide to either stop using the card or you close the account. Another thing is an installment. So an installment line of credit is going to be more in line with like your car note. So your car payment, you're borrowing a large sum of money at one time. The bank is basically paying it all up front for you, and you are making a series of set payments for however long to pay the bank back. Once you've paid the bank back, you just own whatever the bank paid for, and that's it. That line of credit does not renew. If you want the bank to give you more money, you're going to have to reapply for a new loan. So that's the difference between revolving credit, which are going to be your credit cards, and then installment credit, which is going to be any really kind of loan from a bank. The next thing with credit is easier said than done. Don't make a late payment. Don't make a late payment. Yes, sometimes times get hard and you just don't have the money to make the payment, but in those situations, it's not okay to just not pay. It really will negatively affect your score. So typically, they'll give you about 30 days to make your payment after the due date. After that 30 days, they're going to report it. Whoever your lender is, they're going to report it to the credit agencies. That's going to show up on your credit report as a delinquent, derogatory, a negative item. They're all pretty much used interchangeably. It's going to show up that you missed a payment for that month, and every single month that you miss a payment, they are going to report it 30 days after that missed payment. Those will drop your credit score drastically. They drop your credit score drastically, and if you don't request for it to be removed from your credit report once you've paid everything up, it will stay on there, and it can negatively impact your future ability to get any money from any other lenders. No one wants to see that you have a track record of not paying your bills. So if you're ever in a situation where you feel like, okay, I'm going to be late on my bill or something has happened, you need to reach out and call your creditor. Whether it's your card company, whether it's the company, the bank that gave you the loan for your car, your mortgage, whatever it is, whoever it is that you owe, you need to get in contact with them and see if you can work something out. Typically, if you call them in advance, what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to extend the payment date. Maybe they'll give you an extra 7 days. Maybe they'll give you an extra 2 weeks to get you to that next paycheck to make your payment. That will prevent them from being able to add it on to your credit report as a delinquent item because they've extended your payment. And in those situations, you can always ask for confirmation or something in writing showing that this payment plan was put into place. That way you can have a paper trail if in fact it actually does end up on your credit report, which they shouldn't be able to do that. But if it does, at least you have some kind of a paper trail. But all in all, make your payments on time. Make your payments on time. Don't halfway pay. Make whatever the minimum balance is and pay that to at least keep your credit within good standing. You don't want to have a negative payment history. The last thing that I have on credit is not opening up so many different lines of credit at one time. Now, what that does, it's kind of twofold. So having a lot of accounts doesn't look good because it's looking like, okay, you're just trying to get money anywhere that you possibly can. Secondly, every time that you apply for a line of credit, you get what's called a hard inquiry. That means that you've given a lender authorization to pull your credit report and try to figure out, okay, what your credit score is, see your payment history, see how long you've had credit, and then for them to make a determination if they're going to let you borrow money or not. Every single one of those inquiries can impact your score between 3 and 10 points. So if you're going to just get as many accounts as you possibly can, you could possibly be hurting yourself 10 points with every single one that you do. Now, hard inquiries stay on your credit report for up to 2 years. They have the most impact within the first 12 months. So if you have 10 inquiries in 1 year, one, that's going to be on there for the next 2 years of your life, and two, you could have dropped yourself up to 100 points. Regardless of your payment history, regardless that you've had credit for a long time, regardless of any of that, you are still hurting yourself by trying to get, basically it seems like you're fishing for money. You don't want to do that. You want to show creditors that you're responsible with your money, that you have lines of credit to be able to spend, but you also can fund your own self outside of the money that they're providing you. Looking at your credit score is important. Not only looking at your score, but looking at your report. You are entitled to, by federal law, to receive a copy of your credit report for free once a year. Now that doesn't make sense why you can access your information for free only one time a year, but that's what the government put in place. So you can go to annualcreditreport.com. I will put a link to it in the description bar below. And again, that is annualcreditreport.com. That site will give you access to all three major credit bureaus. That is TransUnion, that is Equifax, and that is Experian. Check what's on your reports. You want to make sure that you're aware of what lenders can see. Now, it won't have the actual score, and your score will vary between all three. But typically, they all have a different program as you can pay a fee. Usually, it's about $10 if you want to see what your actual score is. Now, if it's me, I just look at the report to make sure that everything on there is accurate, and that I agree with everything that's on there and everything is in good standing. But if I need to see what the actual score is, I only do it for that specific purpose. If I know I'm going to go I want to go buy a new car, then I'm going to pull and I'll pay for the actual score just to see what it's going to be when I go to try to get a new car. Instead of just, oh, it's Tuesday, I'm just going to pull my credit report today and I don't really have a need to know what the score is right now. I'm not going to pay for it. That's just me. But if you pull yours and there are negative items on it and you really want to know, that is going to be something that you have to pay for. My last thing is I want you guys to be aware that sites like Credit Karma are not always 100% accurate. So yes, they give you a free insight of what your score is going to look at, but what your score is, but that score is not always 100% accurate. I've heard that score, and I've heard this from banks, that score on Credit Karma could be easily 40 points incorrect. And typically, it's 40 points in the opposite direction. It's not going to be, oh, it says a 700 on Credit Karma. I actually have a 740. No, you're going to be the opposite end. So make sure that you're aware of that. You can use those as just like a quick monitoring service if you've already pulled your credit report for the year and you kind of just want to see where you are. You want to see if something else additional has popped up and you don't want to pay for another report from a credit bureau. You can use sites for Credit Karma like that. But don't 100% rely on it for the accurate score that they're giving, because most times it's not it. Yeah, so that's all that I've got on credit for today. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Put comments down below if there are any questions that you have, anything you need a little bit more detail on, other topics surrounding credit that you would like me to talk about. But yeah, so as long as you have subscribed, you've taken some notes, have some mental takeaways from today, let's make sure that we are keeping our credit high and we are not being dragged through the mud in these financial streets, because I feel like banks be laughing at you when your credit score is low. They laughing and they can see it and they know. So yeah, let's make sure that we are on top of our credit, we are being responsible, and it is high so we can get whatever it is that we want. And I will see you guys in the next one. So thanks for watching.